And this was done as a tribute to him. So Jessica and I discussed reading that I should read a chapter, and she chose chapter 36. I don't know if you have the book, some of you may. It's on page 117 if you want to follow along. So we chose this chapter because it's unorthodox. As I was practice reading it, I realized this was a lot easier to write than it is to read. So for me, it's a little bit of a toughie. Okay, chapter 36. Go ahead and flirt. From Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. Quote, one need to fully experience an emotion in order to detach from it, like lust, loneliness, and fear. End quote. I am ashamed. I did something. I know better, but I did it anyway. All of the conditions of my PTSD were triggered, and I jumped. And I willingly put myself in a potentially dangerous situation. I said, holding back tears, all right, Terry, tell me, what have you done now that you haven't already done in your life? Asked my therapist, smiling. I slept with someone. From the start, there were red flags. I mean, from very early in our conversation, and I ignored all of them. He seemed so playful, fun, smart. I laughed. I felt adrenaline, thrill, risk, some illicitness, and went for it. And the sex, by the way, was not fun. It was very disappointing, which probably was a good thing because it helped break the spell. With relief, I said all of this out loud. Focus on your breath, Terry. Just sit quietly for 1 minute and focus on your breath. Eyes open. Now, what exactly are you ashamed of? I hold two keys. One is to my house and one is to my body. I don't let just anyone in. And here, without hesitation, within minutes, I allow this man, this stranger, to slide into my most intimate inner circle. I can't have that. I'm not safe. I need to know, what can I do to protect myself so that this doesn't happen again? Stay with your breath. Right now, be with your breath. In all things, go back to your breath. If you had been able to go back to your breath just for a moment or two before you leaped, do you think you would have made different decisions? I don't know. Possibly, but I was blindsided. We were just smiling and chatting, enjoying the holiday lights on the plaza when he took my hand. For a moment, I was stunned. It felt so good to be holding hands. No one has held my hand in a long time. I did not let go. Then, a short while later, he put his arm around my waist and pulled me close. I felt such a heat rush. It felt wonderful, irresistible. I wanted those things, those feelings to continue. Stay with your breath. I know I am in deficit. It's hard not having closeness and intimacy in my life. I really miss it, but I accept that it's not happening today. I put those feelings in a box for now. I put them on a shelf. He gets to that box in an instant, throws open the lid, and all those pent up feelings come out. It doesn't work that way, Terry. You can't do that. You can't put feelings in a box on a shelf. It's all energetics. It's all part of you and who you are. You are going to have to learn how to use those energies in your daily life. I don't understand. I have been trying so hard to live consciously, think before I speak and act, be present. I know that my life is flat right now. There is no magic, but I accept that as part of the grief process. No, 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 Terry. You know what adrenaline is. Excuse me. You know what adrenaline is. Now use it. You can give yourself a high, a rush, whenever you want. Serve yourself portions daily, every day. Life's too short. Have fun. Take some risk. Try new things. Put yourself out there. Go ahead and flirt. Be playful. Enjoy yourself. But in portions when you want, when you decide. I'm not sure I know how to do that. Experiment. Look for opportunities and give yourself some of this feel good adrenaline in small amounts at first. Relax. You are learning, you are growing. Your self awareness is increasing. Now, I think you are ready for some deep work. We'll start next week. I thought I was doing deep work. What are you talking about? Worthiness. That's the end of that chapter. And so now I'm going to read. Did you want to say something, Jessica?
No, you can go ahead and read some of your poems. Wasn't sure if you wanted to take a moment for questions or not, but
I think I'm going to take a moment and have a drink
really,
of water.
and at any time, if anyone with us wants to ask a question or make a comment, write it in the chat box or raise your hand. We'll have a discussion.
So I see 7 in the chat. Does that mean there's a question or?
No, no questions yet. I'm monitoring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to read 2 poems. They're not long. None of my poems are very long in this book. On page 157, the title of the poem is Choice. Choice, abandon, embrace. Do not underestimate the effect you have on other people. Do not underestimate the effect you have on yourself. And the second poem is on page 165, Looking for My Life. Looking for my life, lost, broken, scattered. I am hammered. I am reshaped. Life is now wide open. Past experience, a baseline. I carry with me a tenderness no longer buried. Happiness is now celebration, no longer betrayal. A sweetness propels me, wrapping pain. I have been loved. I am loved. I love.
always great, Terry. You're a great reader and writer.
Well, thank you.
I think something we should maybe start out with is just how mixed media this memoir is. It's a mix of your paintings um, that sort of mark each part of your journey, and then it's a mix of poetry and these sort of each chapter. It isn't long, which is also interesting in itself, that you're not trying to draw out anything or dramatize anything, just pull out the distinct memories that have shaped your journey. Um, how did you decide to include all of these creative works in your memoir in one spot? Was it always that these works be part of each other?
No, it started out with the writing, and I was always painting, but then it became obvious that I needed to make this painting or the painting that's behind you. And then there were some things that just couldn't be expressed in text, that poetry served better. So it wasn't that I intended that there be paintings and poems in a story. It evolved, and um, maybe when I had some strong emotion that I couldn't express, a poem served it. Or it's very interesting, these paintings in the series all named themselves before they got painted. That doesn't always happen, but in this book, for these things, it did. So, and the chapters weren't put together. The flow of the book, that wasn't determined until the very end, when we decided there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, the loss, the transition, and the renewal, and then the poems. And it was a question, should the poems be part of the text? And it's a different kind of thinking that goes into, or feeling that goes into reading poetry. So they became a separate section. And originally, this book started as about 20 essays. And then it grew and it blossomed. And it wasn't until it was just writing and writing and writing, and then looking at what was written and saying, how does this all fit together? And started shuffling things around and even chopping up chapters and, you know, putting it like that. But it was always designed that any chapter can be read independently of the book. Some people sit and read the book from start to finish. They open it and they don't get up until it's done. Other people read a chapter a day. Some people revisit and reread chapters. So it's done in all styles. Probably like I wrote it, I was kind of not linear. I'm not a linear thinker. And so the book wasn't written linearly.
Thank you. We have lots of comments. Joy says, I think it's brave for Terry to put such personal feelings into a book. I couldn't do it. Kathy says, beautiful reading. Wonderful to see you, says Suzanne Smith. And then we have several questions. So I'll start with the first one asked. Can you read something from your book to let us know about Charlie and showing your emotions?
Wonder what kind of emotion. Surely I can. You have an idea, Jessica? I can talk about when we met. Would that be a good thing?
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let me have a look at this. Chapter 13. Yeah, I like this chapter. It's chapter 4 on page 13. Oh, it's another quote by Romeo and Juliet. Meeting Charles. So, but the question was, would you reread the question? Was it about our relationship? Was that, what was the question again, please?
It just says, can you read something from your book to let us know about Charlie and showing your emotions? And feel free to clarify if there's more to that question, but that's what it says.
Okay, I have a couple of things that come to mind. Let me just look here. I think I'm going to read chapter 11. It's on page 31. And if I'm understanding the question, you would like to hear something about our relationship and some of the dynamics of our relationship and some of the emotion that I had in the relationship. If that's not correct, then is that correct?
And either way, I think you should share playing with Charlie. This is one of my favorite stories.
All right. Chapter 11, it's on page 31. Playing with Charlie. My memory. From A Grief Observed by C.S. Lewis, quote, the most precious gift that marriage gave me was this constant impact of something very close and intimate, yet all the time unmistakably other, resistant, in a word, real, end quote. What's your favorite color, Charles? I ask. White. I like white. Before you came along, I didn't know windows or walls could be any other color but white. Ah, your eyes have been opened, I say, enjoying the look on his face. It is easy to see I like color. I wear it, I paint it, I grow it. Charles, in contrast, has a neutral uniform. Every day he wears a white polo shirt and khaki shorts, almost year-round. When we go out to dinner, I ask, can you kick it up a notch? What do you mean? He replies. I just showered and changed. They're clean. He likes white, but Charles is not a painter. Therefore, very early on, when purple swirls appear on the wall around our clawfoot bathtub in the kitchen, he has to concede. He who holds the paintbrush gets to choose the color. While he was gone on a 3-week cycling trip in Europe, I decide, as a surprise, to have his truck repainted. His champion, old, charcoal gray truck will have new life. Arriving home 3 days early, the truck is not ready, and painting it is no longer a surprise. It's a nice gesture. It won't be ready for 2 days, I say, so we can use my car in the meanwhile. The first thing both of us want when returning to Santa Fe after a trip is a New Mexico green chili fix for lunch. On our way, with Charlie driving, he stops for a red light. As cross traffic rolls by, I spot a bright fuchsia colored truck. Charlie would call that a girly truck. See that? I ask, pointing. I thought that would be a good color for your truck. What? It's not gray? He reacts, his face starting to register horror. Why would I paint it gray? It already was gray. We did that color. I thought it would be good to try something different. Fuchsia is one of the hot new colors today. You didn't. I shrug. I hold the paintbrush. Smoldering and silent, he immediately changes directions. Where are you going? I ask in genuine disbelief. He refuses to answer or look at me. He heads straight for the body shop. Are you kidding me? I think he must be jet lagged. At the body shop, he jumps out, slamming the door, looking for his truck. And there it is, in all of its fresh charcoal gray glory. I can't resist. Gotcha.
I love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good representation of how playful you were together. I'm gonna see. Tony asks, "How long were you and Charlie together?" Also, Tony has their hand raised, so I'm gonna allow you to unmute unless you want to, unless that was all you had.
I know Tony. Go, Tony.
You may unmute yourself, Tony, if you'd like to talk with us. Hi, Tony. Tony, maybe you don't have access to a microphone because we can't hear you. But if there was more to your question, just type it in the chat box. Yeah.
There, Jessica, or to answer Tony's question, we were together a little over 40 years. So, and I think I would like to share another, just it's so short. That the question asked was about our relationship and how did we speak to each other. So it also shows some of the intensity that's also in the book. And that is chapter 12, very short, page 35. Our new reality. It's a quote from Uncomfortable with Uncertainty by Pema Chodron. Quote, things become very clear when there is no escape, end quote. The diagnosis is stage 4 renal carcinoma or kidney cancer that has metastasized or spread to his bones. A cancer lesion on a femur, several sites on a couple of ribs, his right scapula, and the most threatening, lesions on a number of vertebrae along his spine. In other words, his body is riddled with cancer. After all the doctors leave, I sit near Charlie on his bed, holding hands, not speaking. How do we take this in? How do we share this news with family and friends? What do we say to each other? We are touching that most hidden tender spot where life pivots and reframes. That oh so tender spot where there is an inner awareness we dare not name, speak, or admit, because the knowing is the raw realization. We are looking at death. It still gets me, even when I read it and have read it and wrote it, it's still kind of.
Of course. Yeah.
Mm.
Let's see. We have lots of questions.
Okay, let's have a question.
Okay. How much time passed after his death before you felt that it was okay to start to move on and start a new life?
Good question. It's not a moment. It's not one day and then the next day, okay, I'm moving on with my life. It's a process and it happens slowly. I think part of it is for me having the self-confidence to know I can do this. I can redefine my life. And it takes time because in talking about risk, you have to do what is comfortable. And you, I had to do, it was very slow and an evolution. And I think the important thing is that Charlie is still with me. I didn't leave him behind. Um, we are still in a relationship. Love is expansive, it's not um, finite. So I feel bolstered by that relationship. And um, as I meet new people, Charlie is a part of me, and I'm proud of that. So, but at the same time, I'm able to move forward. For example, painting. My painting has evolved a great deal. In when I moved into the studio that was his woodworking shop, I was my paintings were this big, and they look like postage stamps in that 1,200 square foot studio. So it was like, this is huge. This is 30 by 36, so 3 feet by 30 inches. And for me, that was personal growth. That was doing something new. So
That's awesome. I'm going to read some comments and then I'll ask more questions.
okay.
Well, first of all, I agree with this. 40 years, you're much too young. Aside from that, you look so vibrant and happy. I love encountering you in this way, sharing your creations and your personality. That's from Leslie Diamond. Hi, Leslie.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
The Reed Loesch family
Yes.
continues
Yes.
to inspire and amaze me for your courage to say and do things most of us are too reserved to venture and adventure. Brava. Let's see, who else? Terre, thank you for sharing this. Charlie and you are held very closely in my heart. Bicycling and more. I know you'll understand. And that's from Benjamin. I love Terry's book and poetry as well. There's an opening of the heart that Terry reveals in her journey of grief, loss, and love, and it is in her poems as well. And that's from Anna Ortiz.
Wow.
You are a great reader and expresser of words and emotions, Arthur. Jenny Bragg, my mom and I are enjoying the discussion.
Oh, wow. That's great. Thank you.
So one question that I want to ask, well, first of all, one of my greatest fears is losing my husband. And I have to tell anyone who hasn't read this book and that probably has a similar fear of losing a close partner or person, reading Terry's book made me less fearful, at least knowing that life goes on and it's just a different life. So my question I want to bring up where on page 98, you say, you talk about you were swamped with grief after Charlie's son, Michael, passed away. And someone said to you, you know, there is joy in every moment. You just have to choose it. And you say, then and now, I would like to smack that person. However, this comment has stayed challenging me. I definitely would struggle, especially while grieving, if someone told me that, you know, happiness is a choice, yada, yada. And of course, there are cracks of light, little joys in every moment. But it's can be very dismissive to one's pain and invalidates your grief, saying something like that. But how and where did you find that balance, acknowledging your pain, suffering from loss, but you kept going and you kept attempting to find yourself and finding your strengths, and you just kept going? How did you find that balance?
It's not easy. I'd be the first one to say that. And I know there are other people who have lost spouses or who are afraid of losing a spouse. I guess I want to, the first thing that comes to my mind is Charlie. And there's a little, it's like a Chinese fortune cookie saying that is taped onto a wall in the kitchen and it's been there for years. And it's a quote by Anonymous, and it says, grab life by the handlebars. And that was Charlie. I think losing a son, it was his son that died, is an impossible pain that never goes away. And yet, you find ways to ease that pain. For Charlie, he became a cyclist. And he would say, the only time I don't feel that pain in my heart is when I'm riding my bike and I feel the wind and I'm moving and I'm working up that hill. And so he was a great inspiration, is an inspiration to me, because if the shoe were on the other foot, what would I want Charlie to do if I were the one that had passed? I would not want him to sit in a chair and cry all day. I wouldn't want that. And I know that he wouldn't want that for me. And I don't remember where I read it. I think maybe it was Deepak Chopra who said, all that is important is to try, to just try. Today I was talking to someone, and perfection is a killer, you know, it kills the creativity, it kills everything. Just, and I go back to that. The only thing that's important is to try. And so I think, how did I move forward? I just tried. I just gave it a try. And part of me knew that I had to try, that there was an expectation that I would live this next chapter of my life. And Charlie will have been gone 5 years in July. And here I am. I'm living life, and I feel happy. I feel good about who I am. Um, and I see the personal growth that has taken place that wouldn't have taken place had Charlie not passed. And that's kind of a rough thing to say, but I have been forced to grow in ways I didn't know I needed to grow, you know? So,
Thank you so much. Donna Bailey says another medium you used to heal was dance and music, as evidence in chapter 34. Isn't it true that after you overcame no, I can say words.
timidity, yeah.
Timidity to go alone to salsa, dancing and music also brought you joy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very true. Um, uh, I have a grandson and he's very high energy. And from the time he was a little kid, we used to say, this kid has to go to the park. He has to get his wiggles out. And definitely, it's part of exercise to get your wiggles out, and you feel better afterwards. You have to, if you dance, even if you dance by yourself in your kitchen, you feel better afterwards. Everybody does.
That's so true. So true.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm going to start saying that I have to get my wiggles out. Donna also asks, do you find yourself having conversations with Charlie?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Not so much now. In the beginning, it was when I didn't know what decision to make, or if I was going someplace by myself and I wasn't used to being by myself, I would say to him, okay, you got to come with me. And it would just be an idea in my head, or I would be faced with a decision or a dilemma, and I would say, so what do you think? What should I do here? And it wasn't saying, well, what would Charlie do? It wasn't that. It was more like, so tell me, what should I do here? And now, I feel his presence. I was rehearsing before we met this evening, and I was reading the chapters to get refamiliar with them. And at one moment, I felt a groundedness. I suddenly just felt like I really could feel myself sitting in this chair, and there was just a feeling of peace, and I can do this, because it's a little nervous to do this. But that, I would attribute that to Charlie. I would just say there was just a feeling there that said, you got this, you can do this. And I would say that came from him. Yeah.
That's awesome. Arthur asks, how did you find and choose the lead and quotes to each chapter?
Good question. I have been reading and writing down quotes for years. And as I knew that there was going to be a book, not just essays, but now we got a book. I continued to collect quotes. And what does that mean? That means if I read something in a newspaper, in a play, heard something on television. I have a notebook and I would just write it down. It's like, I need to think about that. Oh, that's a good thought. I like the way they said that. And I would just write it down. And then because the book was also fomenting in my mind and on my mind, perhaps I was a little bit more aware of when a quote seemed to strike a note or help me out. And so the chapters came first, and then the quotes were there, and I cut them up into little pieces, like paper. And I'd be like, I think this one goes with this one. And maybe this one goes with no, it should be the other way. And it just kind of became a puzzle that we put together.
That's cool. We have a request from Sharon.
Yeah.
Can you please read your poem on page 163, Love Comes to My Aid?
Sure. Sure. Love comes to my aid. Quiet Sunday morning streets hold mystery, memories of last night, of yesterday, of all the time that has passed since your departure. Remembering your presence, feeling the absence, you will always be my dear sweet Charles. My heart is moved and my eyes are moist. With tenderness I observe, store, and proceed, spirit gently expanding my awareness. So much I do not understand, yet I go forward. Broadcasting spring with sweet harmony, birds celebrate new life, creation. No longer crying with loss, I accept their speak. The pendulum swings between pain and joy, seamless, never one without the other, humorous in the worst moments, pain, enriching joy, easing pain. Well, see, that says a lot. I mean, you can say a lot more in a poet than you can just talk forever in paragraphs.
That's so true. Here's a comment from Joy. I found the book to be much more than an expression of grief. It read like a manual of how to reclaim yourself and be as good as or better than you were before after a tragic, life-changing loss. So, this book is somewhat of a manual on how to live your life. However that comes out, it's okay. That's what this book says to me. Thank you, Joy.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Ralph Steele says, bravo.
Oh.
Darcy says, your words are an inspiration to me. My husband died 3 years ago in June of pancreatic cancer. I'm finding my way without him and using all that I learned from him. Thanks for sharing, Darcy.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yes.
Yeah. What is the most surprising thing you discovered while writing your memoir?
Yeah, that I could write. I mean, I have been journaling and, it's for my own pleasure. And, we'd like to choose the drama in our life and not have a dramatic life. I mean, we'd like to pick and choose. So for me, I could write drama on a page, or paint some drama. Um, and that was one of the first things to know that I really, that this was a possibility, and that I was getting positive feedback, and that people were interested in what I had to say. And that uh, uh, I think there's some kind of self-acceptance that took place there in my own personal growth about, you can do this, and you can do this on your own. Yeah, I think that was a big deal. And then it gained momentum, and I could really sink my teeth into it. It was really a project.
Thank you. What advice would you give to anyone considering writing their own memoir?
Oh, this is so corny. Start writing. Just start writing,
Just
you
do it.
know, just start writing, if you think it's important enough to put on paper, write it down, and don't worry about the timeline or the order or what other people are going to say, or it's initially it's between you. And I wrote a lot of this book longhand. Some of it got written on the computer, but my journaling tends to be done pen and paper. And I like a fountain pen. There's something juicy about a fountain pen. You can choose the color of ink. And yeah, so that's what I would say. Just begin. That's the hardest step. Isn't that what we've heard? To begin is the hardest.
Yep.
Mm. You're mute, Jessica.
So Terry,
Oh, hi, Glenn.
hi Terry. I just want to congratulate you with all my heart. I know I've been able to witness you do all the work that you have to do to get this out there. And I'd like to segue off Joy's comment about it being like a roadmap for me to deal with death, because I've had several deaths, and then I was able to witness, be there too, to help and do what I could for Charlie and you. But the thing that I always tell people are great treasures in my life is having come here to, to develop a relationship with both you and Charlie individually.
Mm.
Both you and Charlie as this loving couple that I was just like always mesmerized by, and see what you did. And then to witness this, this major life transition, which for me, it has always been like being a survivor of trauma where I just get numb and I can't even express myself. So to see you fire up into this, with all the grief that, you had, having 40 years of just this deep, intimate relationship with Charles, and then to see you, kind of rise above that and start bringing everything forward, like the tsunami eventually, I just want to give you all the, honor you as, this warrioress who, brought it, to fruition. And basically it's what I wanted to comment on. I'm just so inspired by you and what you've done. And I've just recently lost another dear friend who was 80, and him and I were wilderness buddies, and you know how that is, camping and stuff. But the experience that I told you about when they told me that he had passed was that, and I didn't know he had passed, is that you called me up to, say, give me a bike rack that you and Charlie had bought for your little Toyota. And
Mm-hmm.
and then you called back to me and you said, Glenn, as I was going up, leaving, and you said, Glenn, that's from Charlie. And I go, and I always talk to Charlie because I am so grateful, for everything that, and he's done a lot here to, that I had to express it for. But, and then when I came back home and found out that my dear friend Arthur had passed, it was like I had seen it that way. Now, had it not been, for all of this interaction, I might have just been fallen into this deep depression. And so by witnessing you, and all this is in the book, the poetry, the art, everything, Rise, it just totally inspired me to handle, this part of our lives that we're always confronted with if you, reach out to people, and handle it in a way that, brings inspiration and just this heart medicine that you need to survive in life. If that
Wow,
makes
Glenn.
sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you very much. I think you elevate me a little bit too much, but thank you for your thoughts. I appreciate that greatly. And I do think that gratitude is a huge part of healing. There's always something that we're thankful for, even when we're depressed. We can say, give me 10 things you're thankful for. Okay, I'm thankful for all the ice cream I just ate. There's something that you can be thankful for. And I think that helps a whole lot. Gratitude is a very important ingredient in healing. Yeah.
Do you think you would have been able to process your loss and grief without having written this memoir? Do you think this was crucial to your healing and your journey and finding yourself again?
I was journaling anyhow, and for years and years and years. So writing is a natural vehicle for me. Whereas for Charlie, it was getting on his bicycle and riding. That was a vehicle pun for him. I think it was necessary for me to write, and it evolved into a book. So I would say, yes, I got to the point where I had to write this book. And I did heal a lot in the process.
Wonderful. A couple have asked if the book is available at Santa Fe Public Library. Yes, it is. All 3 copies are currently checked out, so put yourself on the hold list there. I put a link in the chat box for you for the catalog. You can also find a copy to purchase from online. Multiple vendors there. You can go to terrereed.com. You can also email Terry directly, terrereed@gmail.com.
Yes.
Those links are also in the chat.
There is also a Kindle, an ebook,
right.
And there's also an audiobook, which I am narrated. So all of those are available. Excuse me. And I would say go to terrereed.com and help yourself. Yes.
Yeah, and then you can learn more about our wonderful author this evening at her website. What's next in your writing or future creative projects?
I'm going to write another book. I shouldn't say I'm going to, because it's in process, but you always think you're going to until suddenly there it is, On the broad spectrum, it's about creativity and how it's not a how-to book. It's about, excuse me, how creativity, how important it is in our life, in every day, and how we go about things. The thing I'm currently chewing on is sensuality. And that's a form of creativity. And how does that, you know, it involves, I'm talking about the broad spectrum, like the juice in an orange, or the color of the sunset, or something that opens up our senses. And so it's very interesting that I need to keep writing and I need to keep painting, and we'll see how long this takes. I mean, could take years, you know?
Thank you so much. We have lots of comments, so just how great you are. Thanks, Terry. Beautiful presentation. You did an awesome job. They also thank me, so thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, sweethearted memory of your and Charles' love. It's from Israel. Just
wow.
ordered from Amazon. Oh yeah, there's a delay from them. Sorry about that, Lucy. If you just can't wait, you can see if your copy from the library comes quicker.
Yeah, and I have some copies, so you can go on my website.
Yeah.
I do have some inventory, so that does
go
work.
from the author herself. It's a little more charming.
Don't sign it.
Yeah.
I'll live here, maybe. Yeah.
Donna says, so glad to have had this time to listen. Thanks, Terry. So look forward to our tea.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Dee says, wonderful. Have really enjoyed hearing you. Oh, Lucy says, to finish is pretty hard to do. You are to be commended for finishing and sharing it with all of us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Glenn says, thanks so much for your saint-like authenticity. Ruth says, love this. Thank you. Thanks for all the love, everyone. Terry definitely deserves it.
Thank
Christine
you.
says,
I appreciate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello, Terry. Happy to have seen you. Christine, Rue Maison Paris. Yeah. Well, everyone, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Terry, for sharing your memoir and your art, creativity, your strength. You're a guide for many of us who aren't sure how to navigate loss, and such a positive and just great. You're just a wonderful person. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And thank you, everyone, for being here. Be sure to check out Wind Blows and the Flowers Dance, available at your library, terrereed.com. Be sure to check out our Santa Fe Library calendar for upcoming events. Be sure to stay safe, read books, read The Wind Blows and the Flowers Dance. Yeah.
Did you say this was being recorded?
Yes, it is. It will be available on the Santa Fe Public Library YouTube channel shortly after. I'll get it processed tomorrow. It'll be up sometime tomorrow afternoon for all to revisit and share. Yeah. Yeah. Everyone, go get your wiggles out.
And thank you, Jessica. Thank you very much
You're
for
welcome.
having me.
Yeah.
And the library.
My pleasure.
Yes, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right.
Take care, all.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Terry.